In this video, I'm going to show you how to incrementally load all the fact records into our data warehouse. And just like we did in the previous video with incrementally loading all the dimensions, including the relevant capture of changes across dimension attributes, we need to know when was the last time the fact sales table has been loaded. And in order to do that, we declare last load date and then set that last load date to be the date time that corresponds to the max surrogate key value for DID found in the ETL log update table, where the table that we're looking at is the fact sales table. If we go ahead and execute that bit, it sets the last load date to be the date time format of this max last load date. But since I don't have data coming in on a live system, I'm just going to come up with a bogus last load date. And by bogus, I mean a last load date that actually has some data, but not all of the data. And quite randomly, I picked the 5th of May because that is the second to last day in our source system for Northwind. And if I go ahead and execute that, it sets the last load date to be this day. If I now truncate the table and start loading all the fact records that are newer than 5th of May, 1998 into the stage table, I can do that by setting where order date is bigger than the last load date. I'm going to get data on the very last day of Northwind, so the 6th of May, and if we execute that, it says 32 records affected. Those 32 records, as you will see, are exactly those records on the 6th of May. You can also see here we have null values for ship date, and if you remember back when we had the videos on data quality, that doesn't fly because we need to make lookups for ship date in order to do some of the business calculations required. So we have to apply on the incrementally loaded facts the exact same data quality screens and business logic transformations as we did in the initial load. And the one relevant here is updating it and setting ship date to this made up day in the future. And if I go ahead and do that, all of the data is now cleansed. Now the next thing would be to load this into our EDV and making lookups to find the correct surrogate keys for the relevant dimension attribute in the historized version that we have according to these slowly changing dimensions. However, if I go ahead and execute this bit of the code, insert into EDDW fact sales, then all the surrogate keys and my meshes, selecting again the surrogate keys for the dimension tables and making all the joins, and then having these, and these are important, where valid2 is equal to 999990101. If you remember back from the last video, this is how we know what is the relevant dimension attribute, the one relevant right now, which one is active. We can know that by looking at the valid2 date. If I go ahead and do that, I'm going to get into trouble because these 32 records, of course, already exist in my EDB table because I loaded everything the first time around. So what you can do is go into Northwind DB, the source system, make an order in the orders table and add details on the order details, and then do an actual load where you do not have this bogus date here, but you actually set the date, and today was be 6th of April 2021. But and this is just to show you something different, sometimes you don't have access to source systems. You simply can't control it. So what you can do instead is go ahead and truncate the stage fact sales table. So now it's empty. I will verify that it's empty. If we run that, it's empty. And then finding the same table, going edit top 200 rows, And now I'm just going to come up with that product one for shipper 1, for customer among, by employee 1, and let's do a random -1 order ID and order date of today, 06/04 2021, and that should ship, let's just say it ships the same day, a line total of 10, quantity of 1, no discount applied. If I enter, now I have a record in my stage fact sales table, and if I go back here and look at it, it's gonna be here. So now the stage table holds exactly this, and if I run this bit, I know for a fact that that one is going to be a unique one, because the customer among us hasn't generated any records in my source system, because it was a bogus customer that I created last time. So if I go ahead and run this, let's just do the select before we do the insert. Then, oops, I had forgotten here in the select statement stage fact sales as F, I had forgotten to remove Northwind DW, and then I was counting all of the stage table that was on that database. And of course, in these videos, I'm running everything against the test data warehouse database in order to do everything from the beginning. So yeah, never mind. I just deleted that from here so that when I run this select statement, it actually does the lookups for that exact one record that we just had created on the stage fact sales table in the test data warehouse database where we're working. So that was just a minor fluke. But then if I go ahead and run all of that, it's going to insert that one record, and boom, you're done. So this is going to work in the case where we are able to do, for example, nightly batch loads where the source system is idle. We're not receiving new records. But imagine instead that we have let's say it's a sensor collecting the temperature in a classroom, and that sensor is continually sending the temperature. We know it every millisecond. Then if we do the same with this, it's gonna be problematic, because we have records coming in while we're reading the records. And in that case, we would need to apply a window function so that we just get a subset of data, then load that, then the next subset of data, and so on and so on. But for a lot of ETL purposes in data warehousing, this is going to be a simple and straightforward way of doing it, that you just load everything at a time where your source system is idle.